Well, hey, we did it. We did it. 2021/22 is over. We did it. So much to discuss, Jets fans. Hello, I am Green Bean. Welcome to episode 54 of Green Bean's Jets Pod. I am excited. I'm happy to be here with you. You know why? Do you know why I'm so excited? Because it's the most wonderful time of the year. That's right. It is the most wonderful time of the year. It is the off season. But before we get there, before we hold on to our crown as the off season champs, we have something to talk about, which is the game, how this season wrapped up. We're going to break this down over the next couple weeks, of course. But for today's show, we have Robert Saleh, Zach Wilson. We have our defense. We have the draft picks. All sorts of stuff. We'll get into the intelligent gripe. We're going to have the reality score. Make sure that you don't get misguided by just simple numbers on a page. It's not always the whole story, and we'll get into that as well. But before we do, I want to remind you that we're still having the contest right here. All you have to do to enter is to subscribe to this very channel. Hit that red rectangular button, says subscribe. You hit that, and then you go over to my other channel on YouTube, Full-Time Coaster Tour, and you subscribe there, and you are entered into the program, into the contest. If you want an extra entry, just go over to my Instagram, GreenBeanjetsfan, and follow me there as well, and you will effectively have secured 2 entries into the contest. What do you win? Well, 2 people are going to get a t-shirt of their choice from the GreenBeanjetsfan.com merch store. And 1 lucky grand prize winner will get the same t-shirt, but they will also get a Manscaped Ultra Smooth package. And then that'll be nice. And I'll throw in some stickers, and it'll be a nice little pack for you. A winner's package from Green Bean, and that'll be great. So anyway, get that done. Once I get to 5,000, we're going to go ahead and give out all the goodies when we have selected our 3 winners. I'd also like to remind you that we have a sponsor for this podcast. I want to thank DraftKings for popping over and sponsoring Green Bean's Jets Pod. And before we move into all the great content that I have for you today, let's get a word from DraftKings. Guys, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to New York, and it's not going to be long until you can take a shot on all your favorite sports teams right here in New York on the world-famous DraftKings sports betting app. We all already know DraftKings from their daily fantasy contests, and now they've gone and brought their expertise to sports betting so sports fans everywhere can get in on the action. DraftKings Sportsbook offers everything you could possibly want in a sports betting app, from player props to same-game parlays. They have it all. In just a short time, you'll be able to wager on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home on one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and best of all, you can deposit or withdraw your cash whenever you want. So check out DraftKings Sportsbook and tell them I sent you by using promo code GreenBean. That's promo code GreenBean. DraftKings Sportsbook, coming soon to New York State. Thank you to DraftKings. Don't forget, the link to the DraftKings sports betting app is right in the top of this description. Click on that link and tell them Green Bean sent you by hitting promo code GreenBean. That's promo code GreenBean, and all will be well. Get in on it, man. Get in on it. So here we are, guys. The 2021-22 season is behind us. What do we think? Are we happy? Are we miserable? Are we disappointed? Are we upset? Are we elated? Are we psyched? Where are we? Well, let me tell you, the game against Buffalo was our first ever 17th regular season game, which is, it's interesting, right? We got people breaking records or tying records, all that sort of stuff. But using that 17th game to acquire said stats, I don't know how it's going to all shake out. I mean, look, there was a time when it was 14 games and then now 16 games. So they don't seem to really pay attention too much to differentiating between the 14-game season and the 16-game season. So I would imagine they're just going to kind of absorb this. And the guys that added their stats, maybe the Cooper Kupps, maybe the TJ Watts, they're just going to throw it on in as if it's all relative. It's all the same, right? That's what they're going to do. So we did see TJ Watt tie Michael Strahan's sack record that was robbed from Mark Gastineau, the true sack leader in NFL history. We all know what happened. We barely have to get into it, although I'm planning to get into it quite a bit this season. I plan to get into this one in a big way in the offseason. Don't forget, we got to get Joe Klecko in the Hall of Fame this year. This is his best chance to get in, and we are going to help him. That's what we're going to do. But Mark Gastineau, as we know, got 22 sacks in 1984. 22 sacks. No one has eclipsed that. No one has touched it. And then Michael Strahan comes along. Great player. Nobody's taken anything from Michael Strahan. But he comes along and they were in the final game of the season and it looked like he just wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to make it. He was a half sack back. And what happens? Brett Favre, with very little time left in the game, rolls out to the right and just lays down. The tight end barely went to block him. It was as if they talked about in the huddle. Let's just give Strahan the record. He's earned it. It sure as heck looked like they planned it. He rolled out, laid in front of him, and Strahan went nuts. And the NFL acted as if things were all hunky-dory, like nothing was awry. No one cares. Just giveaway records, especially from a team and a man that don't have much. It's all we got, and you had to take it from us, man. So anyway, I still hold Mark Gastineau as the sack leader, but today, TJ Watt tied Michael Strahan, but he needed a 17th game and some overtime goodness to do it. So what are we talking about here, right? What are we talking about? But anyway, it was an exciting season, and the Jets played their 17th game, week 18, and you know what? It might have been nice if we just ended it last week. Wouldn't it have been nice? No, I was a very vocal proponent of the extra game. I liked it. Why? Because I like football. I want the more football, the better. I like the extra playoff spot, all that stuff. I do. But today I changed my mind, I think. I didn't like this game. I didn't like it very much at all, I must say. So the Jets lose to the Buffalo Bills, and it's sad too because it was looking like we had an opportunity to maybe give a little bit of repayment for 2015. The Rex Ryan-led Buffalo Bills beat our playoff-bound Todd Bowles-led New York Jets, the Brandon Marshalls, the Eric Deckers, the Ryan Fitztragics, the Ivories. We had it all. And the Rex Ryan Bills beat us and sent us home 10-6 and no playoffs for us. And neither one of those two guys, Marshall or Fitzpatrick, ever made it to the playoffs after that. It's just a thing they do. They do really well and they just don't like the playoffs. It's fine if that's what you want to do. So they don't do that. And it looked like maybe today, the 4-win Jets maybe go into Buffalo and repay them for that hurtful blow that they gave us all those years ago. And I'm going to tell you what. We walked in there bruised, battered, 2 ticks from ragtag. That's how we arrived in Orchard Park. That's what it's called. In, what is it? Rich Stadium, I don't know, Buffalo Bills Stadium up there in Buffalo. So we arrive up there and we are battered. We're a battered team coming on the heels of our best game of the year. Truly. I mean, yes, we've had games that we won. We played really good game, obviously the Cincinnati Bengals game with Mike F. and White. We had the Titans game with Zach Wilson sending Corey Davis to the end zone. We had the Texans game and all that, the Jags. So we've had some good games. But this one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though we lost, was really one of our most complete games, especially where Zach Wilson is concerned. So we come into Buffalo on that. That was our most recent football game. So we walk into Buffalo and we had a chance. And I'm going to say, even though I fully expected to lose for a little while there, Buffalo, they were clearly the more intense team. They were clearly the better team. But somehow we hung in this game. It was 10-7. And let me be real honest. That 7 points was bullshit. Between us, That touchdown, I don't know how it happened. It was an incomplete pass. Then some other ref runs over and goes, no, it's good. Even though the person right there said it wasn't. So they claim it's a good touchdown now, and then they review it, and now it's harder to overturn the review than it is to, you know the whole deal. Not enough to overturn it, but it wasn't a touchdown. So they gave him the touchdown. Look, I saw it 4 or 5 times. I still can't see it. I know what they're saying. The toe drag, but he didn't have possession when he dragged the toe. When his foot came up, that's when he got possession. And then he went out of bounds with the other foot, only got 1 foot in. How that's a touchdown? I don't know. So they already got the gift. So it's 10-7 with the gift. So it's really 7-6 us. You see? And then it was 13-7 at the half, which is not a bad half. When we went into the half 13-7, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, we're in this game. So it looked like we had the capability, like we had the possibility in our hands. And as we know, we ended the third quarter 16-7. Not bad still. We're still in this thing. And then it ended up 27-10. Like so many of our games this year, the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, they blow it open. Why? Because our defense is exhausted. They know the game's lost. They're just tired. They're done. They're beat. And that's what happened today. They real quick put some points on the board when we were just huffing and puffing on our heels. So it ends up 27-10. And it's an interesting game because, again, we have this rookie team, right? As we all know, we started more rookies than any other team in the NFL. We had the youngest team on the field in the NFL. Then we get the injuries. The injuries come. The Carl Lawsons, the Jared Davis, the Vinnie Currys, the Ronald Blairs, all that stuff. The Mekhi Becton. So we lose all those guys, but somehow we continue to progress all year. We continue. First chunk of the season, more sacks, more pressures, more hurries, more drop passes than any other team in the NFL. Yet we still keep clawing, scratching, kicking, biting, and we get a win here. We get a win there. But we're getting beat up. We get shut out here. We get a 51-3 there. It was an up and down season, but we start to climb through. And Zach Wilson, at the end of the day, today, at the end of this last game, week 18, has gone 5 consecutive weeks without throwing a pick after having 11 in his first 5 games. Okay? Not bad, guys. Not bad. He only dropped back a handful of times because we did have a lot of up and threes and downs and threes. We did, but it doesn't matter. Zach Wilson went 5 straight games without throwing an interception, which is a huge, huge turnaround for where we were earlier in the season. Okay, now we'll get into his stat line in the box score later on, but I'm just going to tell you. Was another improvement. Now, we listened to Robert Saleh after the game. There was a bunch of baloney. In my opinion, Buffalo, look, they got a chop block on them. They obviously had some scrums, where there was a little bit of pushing, a little bit of shoving. Bawden got into something. Ashton Davis got into something on the Buffalo Bills sideline. So the team was able to bring the passion. Like I said, in the very beginning, it didn't necessarily feel like the Jets were matching the intensity of the Bills. They came out, they were ready to secure their division title. They were ready to secure their first round bye in the playoffs. And it just didn't look like we were going to be able to hang with them. But we did. Why? We have injuries everywhere. We're starting guys like Will Parks and Elijah Riley. We got guys on the offense like Tariq Black. Like, who are these guys? Right? Where are they coming from? These are guys, we're just bumping them up from the practice squad. We're sticking them on the team. And at the end of the game, we only had 3 active receivers. Crazy. That's where we were at the end of the game. But somehow, they're forcing the Bills to punt 8 out of 9 drives. After going down 10-0, 8 of 9 drives were punts. That's what our defense is doing. Our defense was supposed to be manhandled today. And at the very end of the game, sure, you can give it to the Bills. They tried real hard to run it up and make it look like it was a thing, but we all know what we watched. Buffalo was unable to do anything. We kept shutting them down on 3rd down. They tried to disrespect us numerous times, and we knocked them off the field numerous times on 4th down. How? We got injuries all over the place. Again, Will Parks is running around out there. Elijah Riley's in coverage in the end zone. What's going on? How is Eccles holding Diggs to any type of respectable numbers? How's that happening? Now, as we know, Diggs got the best of our defensive backs ultimately, but it was a scratch and claw fight. It was a death match. Diggs taking Eccles' face and throwing him around. Does it mean that we're a bunch of punks? No, it means that we're a bunch of kids. We're a bunch of kids out there with some of the elite players in the NFL, and they're learning. They're learning the hard way. Like I said in the Jetnation live stream today, you can study the playbook all you want. You can watch as many videos about technique as you want. You can do as many drills as you want. You can practice all day, every day. You can work with the jugs machine. You can do anything. And you don't learn that lesson about what it's like to get stiff-armed by Stefon Diggs to the ground until you get his hand in your face and he throws you to the ground. That's the only way to learn that one. You don't like it? Well, let's figure this one out. You don't like getting stiff-armed? It's like I was taught by, I had a bunch of drunk uncles and fathers teaching us as kids. Those were my football coaches. You know what I was taught when I was 8 or 9 years old? You don't like getting stiff-armed? Grab his arm. Somebody sticks their arm out to you, grab it. Grab the closest appendage, flip him around, throw him around. Tell him if he wants his arm, don't stick it out toward you again. And that's what I did. I was taught that when I was 8 or 9 years old. How come these NFL guys are getting stiff-armed? You give me your arm, I'm grabbing it. Right? You don't learn that lesson until you learn the lesson. So Eccles, maybe today, Stefon Diggs, one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. Let's just be real here. Maybe today Stefon Diggs got him. Maybe he got him. No problem. But he learned the lesson that he needed to learn today. That's the important thing. So in Robert Saleh's post-game presser, he's sitting there waiting for the thing to start. And he's just sitting there calmly, and I noticed something. Now, this is just me thinking. I noticed something. His nose is a little bit red. His eyes are a little bit puffy. Go ahead, take a look. You'll see what I mean. It looks as though he may have been crying a little bit. Now, do I think he's crying over the loss of the game? No. But I think maybe he got emotional. Don't forget, this was his first season as an NFL head coach. And let me tell you something. The way that they played today, particularly on defense, was heroic. It was worthy of praise. They were outmanned, outmatched, nothing to play for. All those tiers of reasons why they should have been stomped on. And they were getting off the field on third down. And then when they would just say, hey, you know what? We're going to run it on 4th and 5 on our own 38-2. We stopped them there. Okay? Made them punt 8 out of 9 series in a row. That's incredible. How is our ragtag defense doing that? That's because of Robert Saleh. And there was a time when they showed Robert Saleh on the sideline with the huddle with the offense, and he was getting with them. He was pumping them up, and they looked like they were responding. They're nodding their heads and everything. That's Robert Saleh. So after the game, when he's in the presser, I don't know if he cried, if he teared up. I don't know for a fact, but it looked to me like he might have. And I take that as a positive. I do. I like the emotion. I like the passion. I like the fact that he's acknowledging the moments. I like that about him. So they asked Robert Saleh, what happened? What happened with Zach? What do you think? Can you evaluate him at this point? He had no receivers. He had no offensive linemen. And he says, Zach showed us some things today. Maybe it wasn't a perfect game, but Zach showed us that his skills, those moments of elite escapability, all that, right? In Robert Saleh's words, he said, those moments weren't fluky. That's what we learned about Zach. This is his skill set. That's his skill set. When he does those miracle plays, when he loses 5 guys that are all over him and he somehow pops out and runs for 90 yards, that's not a fluke. That's not a broken play that he just lucked out. That's what he does. So Saleh was also asked about his evaluation of the whole year, and he said, hey, look, we knew this was going to be a roller coaster with our youth movement. We knew it. We had no misguided illusions about what this was going to be. We knew it was going to be a roller coaster. He's not happy with 4 wins, and he said, look, at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. We know that. But we did have a lot of teams up against the ropes, including the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We had a lot of games, it was one score here, one score there. And he said, even though our wins aren't where we want them, he acknowledged the progress. He said it's clear as day. We got these guys the necessary experience that they wanted to give them. It's invaluable. Like I said about Stefon Diggs, you're not going to learn what it's like to get beat by Stefon Diggs in a book. You're not going to learn about it on camera, and you're not even going to learn about it in a practice session. You need to be in a game when he's playing for his division title. You got to play against him when he wants it. That's how you learn that lesson. How do you learn it? You get in there, you throw the kid in, and you say, hey, here's the best I can give you. Here's this tool, here's that tool. Like, here's your pocket knife, here's your canteen. Get in there. And you got to figure it out. And Eccles, as same thing with Hall and Michael Carter II. Guys, they played well this year. Our defensive backfield is literally made up of late-round picks and undrafted free agents. And they played damn well. And if we can keep this group together, we have something. So Saleh, in his post-game presser, he didn't seem deflated. He seemed like, hey, man, here we are. It's done. We spent it. I don't have $1 left in my pocket. It's spent. But he seemed constructive. He seemed happy. He seemed even a touch relieved. And that makes me really happy. So a lot of Jets fans were disappointed about today. I mean, they were getting upset, downright upset. I did a lot of thinking. I sat in periods of contemplation. And I want to give you my thoughts in the Intelligent Gripe. So that's right. We did lose the game today, and we lost more games this year than we won. We all know that. A lot of us at the beginning of the season had high hopes. Even the guys that had medium hopes were kind of undersold here, right? So a lot of people were saying 6 to 8 wins. A lot of people were saying 8, 9 wins. And then there were the people saying, hey, man, this team is built well. We did good in the free agent period, and our draft picks are slam dunks. I think we're going to win 10 or 12 games. So we had the full spectrum of hopes and dreams this year. The truth is, we won 4. We had a couple other games that we could have won, but we didn't. And now here we are. So what does it all mean? Should we be disappointed? Sure, we can be disappointed. Should we be angry about it? This is where I have some constructive thoughts for us. Again, we have a GM that's his first time in a general manager role, right? Now, he was pretty much the next big name in GM signings that year. He was going to be hired. The year before, the Saints, I think it was, requested to interview him for their general manager job, and the Eagles denied that request. So then when it was our turn, when we fired Mike McCagnon, it just so happened that they couldn't restrict him any longer, and we got sole possession of the rights to negotiate with him. So it's a weird way that it started, but you got to remember, this is his first time in the job. His first time in the job, he's equal power with Adam Gase, the worst coach in our team's history, in my opinion. So you got Adam Gase and you got Joe Douglas, and they're after the big free agent spree from Mike McCagnon with the names like Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley, and the snubs like Anthony Barr. Nice, interesting offseason. And then we used our 3rd overall pick on Quinnen Williams, followed that with another 3rd-round defensive lineman in the forgotten Ja'Kai Polite, who was just falling like a shooting star, and McCagnon grabbed him and said, "Come with me, son." So that's what he did in that draft. And then he got the likes of Blake Cashman, Trevon Wesco, and Blesson Austin. That was what he gave Sam Darnold. So Joe Douglas comes in after that, and he's tasked with checking this team out. Hey, we'd like you to rebuild it. We'll give you a 6-year contract. We know it's going to take some time, so we give him that time. Now, Joe Douglas spends the first year evaluating. He's got Sam Darnold. He's got Jamal Adams. He's got all these guys, Marcus May. He's got some Leo Williams action. And he decides somewhere along the line, these guys are not core. These guys are not core guys. So he blows the whole thing up. While blowing it up, he happens to acquire probably the best trade in our history with the Jamal Adams trade. Not to say that the compensation is the best in our history, because don't forget the Keyshawn Johnson trade was pretty sweet as well. but it's what the player was actually worth that it might be the best trade in our history. And I'll tell you this, it's definitely the best trade since the Keyshawn Johnson trade. So we did get 2 firsts for that trade as well. So he trades Leo for a 3rd and a 5th. He trades Jamal for 2 firsts. He trades Sam Darnold for a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th. 2 of which we still get to use this year. And then he trades the likes of Avery Williamson, another big McCagnon free agent signing. He trades Steve McClendon, gives him a solid, sends him to win a Super Bowl and all that. Don't forget, he sent McClendon to the Bucs, which they were on a path to potentially win something. And then he sent Avery Williamson to the then undefeated 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's doing these guys a solid, but he gets some capital for them. And then he starts the rebuild with firing Adam Gase, who was, hey, they're buddies and all, but he fires Adam Gase, and then he goes and he hires his own coach. Him and this guy, Robert Saleh, they decide on their staff, bunch of Robert Saleh's best buddies and little brother's friends and all that kind of stuff. So they bring those guys in and they start the rebuild. We had 10 picks in the draft. He goes 4 with offense, and then the rest with just a bunch of late-round guys. You got the Hamza Nasruddins, the Jamie and Sherwoods. You got the Brandon Eccles and the Jonathan Marshalls, all this sort of stuff, many of which they decided somewhere in this offseason, the vets that we do have are not good enough that it should warrant taking away the development opportunities from these young guys. So what do? We cut Blesson Austin. We cut all these other guys and we say, all you young bucks, come here, gather around. We're going to start 90% of you. How's that sound? And we know we're probably not going to win anything. So that's what they do, including Zach Wilson, AVT, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore. All these guys are pretty much starting. If they're not starting, they're getting quality rep counts. So when we watch this, even though it looks so good to us, we got Elijah Moore, we got Corey Davis, we got Jared Davis and Carl Lawson and all these guys. And when they started to fall off, Carl Lawson blows his Achilles. Jared Davis goes out for 6 weeks. Vinnie Curry gets a blood disorder. Ronald Blair gets hurt. Then we lose Mekhi Becton and on and on and on. Even with that, and then with the way Zach Wilson came back in the second half of that first game against the Carolina Panthers, it looked like, you know what? We might have something. But it fell out. The bottom fell out. Why? Why did the bottom fall out? Because we don't have the experience enough to keep this going. We don't even have our systems in place yet. Don't forget, this offense, when we started, we were a 21-22 personnel offense, which means running back, fullback, tight end, sometimes 2 tight ends, 1 receiver. Like, that's what we were bringing. We were a fullback offense. Around week 4, week 5, we started getting away from that and going to 11 personnel. So we didn't even have our systems in place yet. We wanted to run a 4-3, didn't have the linebackers. Now we're running a 4-2-5 with a base nickel. Why? Because we don't have the personnel to do otherwise. So, and they've decided to take the lumps. We panic. So what compensate, do something. It's not the most important thing. Now, as aggravating as it can be, as upsetting as it can be, these guys, if we're able to keep this core together, let's just keep like the cornerbacks, right? You got Bryce Hall, 5th round pick, Brandon Eccles, 6th round pick, and Michael Carter, the 2nd, also a 6th round pick. Maybe he's a 5th, I forget. Then you got Javelin Guidry. You got Isaiah Dunn. These are undrafted free agents. You got Lamar Jackson sitting there on the practice squad. Another undrafted free agent. If these guys do stay together and you build the rest of the defense around them, you will have 4 years of the most inexpensive defensive backfield in the history of the NFL, man. Or it's up there. Late round picks, it's nothing. We're not even talking about 1st round pick rookie contracts. So if these guys can just continue to develop, don't forget, next year they're not rookies. They're vets. They have a full season of starting, followed by a real NFL offseason. They don't have to worry about the combine and the pro days and the draft and the emotional this, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. They just have to rehab and continue to learn their playbook, follow the doctors and training and dietary advice and all that sort of stuff. A full NFL program off season where they can actually bulk up and slim down, whatever it is that it calls for. They come back having a full year under their belts. Now they're vets. Now they're not long-term vets for anything, but even guys like Bryce Hall, who only got 6 games the year before, now he's got a year and a half under his belt. Now they're becoming a unit. Don't forget when Brandon Eccles got that interception, what did he say? That was a call from Michael Carter II. He said, Michael Carter saw something. I trusted it. I responded, got the pick 6. What does that mean? It means that they're just starting to be able to talk to each other. They're just starting to understand and trust one another. And what am I seeing? These guys stay together and we have something. When you think of Zach Wilson, yeah, sure. He's had his ups and downs. 11 picks in 5 games. 200 sacks, it felt like. And pressures and hurries. He had that 1.7 second stat to throw the ball before pressure was in his face. It looked like telling you, for moments, it looked like we just might have picked the wrong guy. But what does he do? He continues to work. He continues to move forward. And he becomes this guy that looks calm. He looks collected. And he looks like a leader. Sure, they say this on SMY. Sure, they say this in the Post or the Daily News or ESPN. They don't know what they're talking about. We see it. We see the team. We see them responding. We see this guy calming down. We see him no longer throwing picks, protecting the ball. Now, maybe he's got still some mistakes to make, and sure, we're not talking about a 5-year vet here. But from the beginning of the season till the end, it's 2 totally different things. So when I look at this season and I think about that defensive backfield, and I think about how great CJ Mosley really was after 2 years of not playing. First the injury, then the COVID. We have a whole different Jets. It's not even the same general manager here from when he was signed. It's a whole different team. We didn't know what we were getting. CJ Mosley came in and he wins MVP voted by his teammates. Why? Because he's badass. Now, when we surround him with something, some support, maybe if Jamian Sherwood could have stayed there all year without blowing his Achilles tendon, maybe we would have been able to understand and know what he's going to bring. But the coaching staff loves him, so he's another guy. But when we see CJ Mosley becoming the leader that he is, when we think about Zach Wilson and AVT just in Tampa Bay had his best game of the year. Lumping people up. You saw the video I made with Luke Grant's play-by-play analysis. There was a play where AVT pulled and literally knocked the mouthpiece out of Joe Tryon's face. Boom! So those guys get a year together. Don't forget Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, all these guys. They're now vets. They're no longer rookies. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you get picked on by your big brother. He just picks on you and you go, and he picks on you, and then you're 12, and then you're 13, and you're eyeballing him, and then you're 14, and you're 15, and he picks on you, and you punch him right in the jaw, and he falls down. And what do you say? I'm not a little kid anymore. Don't do that. And he says, okay, all right, that phase is done. We're past that. That's how that works. You get to a point, I'm not a kid anymore. And that's what we're going to see going into next year. I have absolute confidence that this year was exactly what we needed. Now, the injuries, if we could have avoided the injuries, much, much better. I'm not saying that I'm happy about all that. But again, don't forget, we have a whole rookie medical staff. We got Dr. DeWeese and his crew, new nutritionists, new trainer, new rehab department, new medical staff. And then we have it all under the umbrella of Dr. DeWeese. I mean, they haven't even been here a year yet. So I think I had higher hopes for that, if I'm being really honest. But the truth is that we have just implemented an entirely new system. We have to allow them time as if they are rookies to kind of understand each other's language and vernacular and tendencies and strengths and weaknesses, what's working. Once that sets in, and this offseason is probably going to be a good time for a lot of that to slowly sink in. think that the injury bug's going to start to go away little by little as well. And that'll be key. That'll be key. So I, for one, think that this year was purposeful. It was really cool to see them overcome it. Do you realize we had not one fracture? The worst thing that we had was when Greg Van Roten, after like week 3, said that Zach could hold the ball a little too long sometimes. That was as bad as it got. Think of this adversity if Jamal Adams was here, Trumaine Johnson, Brandon Marshall, Sheldon Richardson. Think if those guys were here, Muhammad Wilkerson. Think if the likes of those guys were here during this. Jamal Adams alone. He'd be throwing people under the bus, this guy, that guy, we need more dogs, blah, blah, blah. You know how I am, I come to play. All that stuff. It would have been divided. They did it slow and steady, and we saw the progress every single week. And that's what I'm here to tell you. Sure, it's disappointing. Sure, it's aggravating. Sure, we're tired of it. Aren't you tired of it? Rebuilding, losing, starting over, throwing it in the garbage, rebuilding. But that's why these guys, 6 years and 5 years, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh respectively. That's how long this is going to take. And this year, we happen to have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 1 third, 2 fourths, 2 fifths to bring this in. We also happen to have $70 million, probably a little bit more when we trim it a little bit more. See who else we're going to let go. We already let Shaq Lawson go. So we know that saves $9 million. They'll probably bring him back if they're interested. They get the, $2 million, 2.5 type contract. If he wants to come, that's fine. He's a good player. He's just not impactful. He's more of a rotational type. But $9 million, no way. So they let him go. So when we spend this $70 million and we use these 9 draft picks, 4 in the top 40 alone, on top of our players, our kids that we watched this year showing up next year as vets, weather-worn, battle-hardened. These guys, they're not just vets because they've been in the NFL for a year. They're vets because they played the first 17-game season in NFL history together. And sure, they got beat up. Their nose was bloody. But they walked off with their heads held high. Why? Because they made it. They did it. First year with Robert Saleh, first year with Mike LeBooth, Jeff Ulbricht, Rob Calabrese, John Beck, Matt Cavanaugh. Who knows? Who knows what this is going to develop into? But they all have a season together now. All these assets that we have, they're stacking onto something that's actually real. We saw the progress. We saw our young quarterback. And that is why I'm hopeful going into this offseason. So, what do you think when you look at the stats of our last game? What happens? 7 completions on 20 attempts for 87 yards and a touchdown. No picks. So what does it mean? That doesn't sound good. And we talk about this all the time. When you just look at the numbers of something, it looks a certain way, doesn't it? Numbers are straight up, man. Numbers don't lie. They do not care to try to trick you or fool you. They just are. But there is a story around numbers. There's a story surrounding the numbers. So it's an interesting thing when you talk about Zach's numbers in particular. 7 completions today. Whole bunch of up and 3, down and 3. Whole bunch of 3 and outs. Whole bunch of Braden Mann punting. So what does it mean? Does our offense suck? Maybe. But again, our top 3 wide receivers were not there today. By the end of the game, the next 2 wide receivers were down. We were down to 3 total wide receivers. Our offensive line, we only had 2 starters on a 5-man unit. So they had 3 new guys. By the end of the game, it was down to 1. When they asked Zach Wilson, why couldn't you move the ball today? This kid had every single opportunity to say, oh, dude, what do you want? I have no wide receivers. My tight ends drop passes still. What am I supposed to do, man? He doesn't say any of that. Yet again, he had every excuse to do it. You know what he said? Well, let's start with we played a really good defense today. Plus, I had a few plays I'd like back where I was just trying to do too much. He said, after going 3-and-out and 3-and-out again, my head, I'm thinking, just make a play. Just make a play, man. So what does he do there? He owns it. Now, we could look at the game and think we know exactly what he's talking about. You can probably recall the exact play that he's talking about. It doesn't matter that he was being chased all over the place in less than 2 seconds by the blitzer, and he doesn't say any of that. He's talking about himself and what he can do better. Now, we've seen this before with the likes of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a good dude. Never threw stones at anybody. Always took it on his chin. But it was more blanket. It was, we got to play better. I got to do better. I'm not efficient. Those types of things. Zach Wilson gives you specific examples of what he's talking about. On that play, I did X. I wish I had it back because I could have did this. He already knows right after the game. He's not afraid to tell you. He's not afraid to tell you what's up. And at no time did he even consider mentioning anyone else but himself. The only time he did was when he talked about putting the kicker, Eddie Pinheiro, in a bad position because he tried to do too much. He said, I can't do that. I can't do that to the kicker. Now, he said, thankfully he made it. Great kick. But I can't do that. I can't put him in a position. Now, the beat, as we know, they want him to talk about the line. They want to talk about this stuff. They asked Saleh about the line. They asked Saleh about the receivers. And they asked Zach about the receivers and the offensive line as well. You know what he said? It's about me. I need to evaluate myself on the decisions I make, regardless of who's blocking and who's catching. Dude, this guy has been dragged through the mud, has been dragged all over God's green earth by the media, the national media, trying to tear him down. It started before the draft. Spoiled rich kid. All season long, they did it to him again. Just recently, last week, all they wanted to talk about was the 1 4th-and-2 play. They decimated and attacked his character, saying that he's a me guy. He just wanted the glory. This is my moment to shine. We've never seen anything that supports that. Never. He had no offensive line. He had no receivers. His tight ends, they're often injured and they're hobbled. Never, all season long, has he ever brought up something someone else does that has affected him. And he could have. There was a time when he was being chased all over the place. He's never come back to the press, getting into a tit for tat or anything like that. And they've baited him numerous times. They just did it in his post-game presser for this last game. It's about me. I need to evaluate myself on the decisions I make, no matter who is blocking or catching the ball. And then he went on to say they have the same mindset. They're trying to do their thing, whatever. He went on to a little bit of that too. So when you look at this box score, I'm going to tell you right now, he had no offensive line. He had no wide receivers. His passes were being dropped all over the place. Jeff Smith dropped one again today. Ty Johnson, Tyler Croft, they were dropping them all over the place. Drive killers. Now, he wasn't perfect by any means, but he was being chased for his life, and he was being betrayed by his receiving corps because they weren't dropping passes. I'm going to tell you that because he won't. What did we expect? We're talking about the Buffalo Bills, one of the top defenses in the entire league, playing for the division title and home field advantage in the playoffs. At home. We walked in there hobbled, decimated, beaten, and battered. Zach Wilson could have absolutely thrown in the towel at any given time, or he could pass blame all over anybody at any given time. That's what happened today. But he, our young leader, has proven time and time again that he takes responsibility for everything because he's out front as the quarterback. And I, for one, am proud that I have him as a quarterback. I don't know what his career is going to be, but I'm going to tell you, I saw marked improvement. I saw consistent progression and development from him. He looks like a different quarterback now than he did that first quarter of the season, even the first half of the season, really. In the last 7 games, he's thrown 2 interceptions. In the last 5, he's thrown none. Sure, 7 completions for 87 yards. It's not good no matter how you spin it, how you slice it. But there are reasons for it. And again, if you talk to Zach Wilson, you would think it was all his fault. And that's the reality score. So guys, it's official. We now know the season is over. We know what it looked like. We know who we got. We know who's a keeper, who's a sleeper, who's got some developing to do, and who needs to go. And we'll make videos and we'll have the discussions on all that stuff. But the one thing that has become final today is we know where we're picking in the draft. We have pick number 4, that's our own pick, and we have pick number 10 from Seattle. Now, it's kind of a bummer. It's amazing that pick 10 can be a disappointment because there were times where it looked like they might even have pick 4. Remember, they were actually ahead of our pick. Remember that? So it's amazing that 10 has kind of become a negative, but let's be real here for a second. When we made the trade for, Jamal Adams for those picks, the word on the street was the Jets basically traded Jamal Adams for 2 early seconds. That's what they were saying. Late first, they thought it was going to be somewhere from 28 to 32. That's where they thought the next 2 years of first-round picks for Seattle would be. Instead, we had the 23rd last year, which everybody said that was surprising. I can't believe they got lucky enough to get the 23rd pick. Now, we have a top 10 pick. Do you know how aggravating that is for a team to have their down year and not have the benefit? The pick? Like, that's the best part. Miami did it last year in the Larry Tunsil trade with the Texans. They were the division leading Texans. They were at the top of the heap. So that first round pick, they thought it was going to be late. They ended up getting the 3rd overall pick from them. So this is the kind of stuff that can happen. And Joe Douglas played this perfectly. So we now have pick 4, pick 10, pick 36, and pick 38 from the Panthers in the Sam Darnold trade. We also got pick 108 from them in the 4th round. So the Sam Darnold trade netted us a 6 last year, and it ended up being pick 38 this year and pick 108. Not a bad deal. Now let's see how we use them. But guys, this was about as positive as this Jamal Adams, Sam Darnold trade could be. The fact that the Panthers are the 5th worst team in the NFL. After we traded them the 32nd ranked quarterback. Nobody expected. They loaded up down there. They had Joe Brady and Matt Rule and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Christian McCaffrey and Terrace Marshall, all these guys. Arnold. They were stocked. And they're the 5th worst team in the NFL. That wasn't supposed to happen. Seattle being the 10th worst team in the NFL wasn't supposed to happen. So we got lucky, and we should be happy about it. Now, I know there are going to be grumbles and rumblings of the people that said if we didn't win the Jacksonville game, we'd be picking at number 2. And it's a fair point. At the end of the day, we wrapped up this season with a win, a damn near win against the Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Right on the ropes we had them. They won in the last 10 seconds of the game. Tom Brady doing his Tom Brady thing. But our young quarterback took him to the ropes. And then we got beaten Buffalo. But here's the truth of it. I know it looks like a 27-10 game. It's not accurate. Sure, at the end, when we just kind of said, all right, we're done. We had enough here. That was a 16-7 game in the 4th quarter. Not bad, guys. We were only down a little bit. We had them. We were never going to win. I don't want to make it sound like that. But our team fought and clawed and kicked, all because Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, Mike LaFleur, all those guys, they had them ready to play. They had the young ragamuffin team ready to play. Buffalo was as hungry as you're going to get them. The place was packed with rabid Buffalo fans. That's the reality. So as we go into the offseason, like I said, we have so much to discuss. Take solace. It's over. The injuries are going to stop. It was a damn good, productive season. Maybe not in the win column, but this needed to happen. It needed to happen in the worst way ever. tired of buying, 4 or 5 big name free agents and 6, 7, 9, 8 wins, whatever it is. Sick of it. In a year, we got to flip it again, but we owe everybody money, and they suck, but we cut them, and we still owe them $8 million. That stuff's over. That stuff's over. We cleaned the house. This is the end of the McCagnon contracts that we have to still pay while they're not here. Quincy Enunwa, Le'Veon Bell, Trumaine Johnson, and the like. This was it. We're done. Joe Douglas has freed us of this, finally. We got all the picks in the world to build it. We got all the cash in the world to build it. And we have a solid core. We have the beginnings of a legitimate foundation, guys. That's what I'm so psyched about. I can't wait to get into the offseason with you. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I hope they don't ding me for that. Sometimes they'll ding you. They'll be like, hey, you can't sing that. I'll let you know if it does. Anyway, guys, I've had a great season with you guys. Thanks to everybody who supported the Jetnation live streams. I want to thank Jeremy for helping me out. And you guys have just been amazing. What a great time. I don't know if I would make it through a season without you guys anymore. It's amazing. So thank you to Jetnation. Thank you to all of you. And I hope that we get together soon. I will be announcing this week when we start the Monday night 10 o'clock mocks again. It's going to be soon. And I have a huge Patreon announcement coming soon. Don't forget, if you want to get in on all that stuff, my Patreon link is right in the beginning of this description, right under the DraftKings link. And I want to thank DraftKings again for sponsoring Green Bean's Jets Pod. It's going to be an exciting offseason, guys. We're going to get a lot done this year. This is an important one. It's a big one. A lot of meat on the bone. So we're going to have a good time, and we'll do it all together. Thanks again. All that said, have a great week. Go Jets.